And first of all, can I introduce myself? I'm Tony Burke, Assistant General Secretary of Unite the Union in the UK and Ireland. And I just want to start by saying that Unite has a long-standing commitment to internationalism and international solidarity, particularly with countries in Latin America. And I'm very proud to be chairing this meeting. And we've built up in Unite very, very good relationships with Louise and her comrades in the Nicaragua Solidarity Campaign, and also with our other comrades in the Latin America campaigns. But before I do kick off, I just want to say, first of all, that we are sending a message of solidarity to the people of Nicaragua following the hurricane that hit the Caribbean coast last week. And also, it shouldn't go unremarked at the commencement of this webinar that it looks like, all being well, that we can say goodbye to Donald Trump and hello to Joe Biden. And I'm sure that some of you will have something to say about this. I'm going to take an opportunity to say much more about the departure of Trump and hopefully a more positive response from Joe Biden at another place, another time, because we've got a good agenda this evening, and I want to kick off with the meeting by saying that the overthrow of the 43-year ago Somoza dictatorship by the broad coalition forces of the Sandinista National Liberation Front on July the 19th, 1979 was a defining historical event, not only for Latin America and the Caribbean, but globally. It's inspired by the Cuban Revolution 20 years earlier, and the victory eroded the United States stranglehold over the region and realized the dream of Nicaraguan hero Augusto Cesar Sandino as a symbol of resistance to US domination. Nicaragua became a beacon of hope and social progress regionally and internationally. And in the UK in particular, we watched with great interest the developments and supported the Sandinistas. In Latin America, the revolution represented a fulfillment of dreams that had been brutally destroyed by the CIA-backed coup in Chile. For the US administration of Ronald Reagan in the 1980s, the profound political, social, and economic transitions of the Sandinista government constituted what was described by him as an unusual and extraordinary threat to the national security and the foreign policy of the United States, leading him to declare a state of national emergency. And the Reagan administration, in this undeclared war, set about destroying the Sandinista revolution, launching an undeclared brutal war that was to cost at least 30,000 lives. So, comrades, for over 40 years, the Nicaraguan people have continued to resist US attempts to undermine and overthrow the revolution. The war of the 1980s continued attempts to suffocate the economy through illegal coercive measures, and the attempted coup of 2018 have not dampened the resolves of the Nicaraguan people to defend their revolution and sovereignty. So when the FSLN was defeated in the 1990 elections, it fully respected the people's will, even though this had been expressed with a US gun pointed directly at their heads. The deep roots in the mass organization of people helped the resistance against 16 years of neoliberalism from 1990 onwards. So our speakers tonight will be examining the three phases of the revolution, from 1979 to 1990, from 1990 to 2006, that's the period of neoliberal government, and from 2006 onwards, following the election of Daniel Ortega and the FSLN. Now I'm going to hand over to our speakers, and hopefully, if there is time at the end, we'll be able to put some questions to you. I am hoping that we can conclude the meeting by around about 8 o'clock, not least because there's football on the UK television, but that's nothing to do with it. And we'll hopefully be able to get some question and answers in. and you'll be able to put them through on the Q&A. So our first speaker this evening is Comandante Lamberto Ignacio Campbell Hooker. Lamberto is a Sandinista politician from Bluefields. He's currently president of the Supreme Electoral Council and the president's personal representative on the Atlantic coast. He joined the FSLN at the age of 19 when he was part of the revolutionary student movement and led a guerrilla column. Each of our speakers is going to speak for around 10 to 15 minutes. So, Lamberto, over to you.
Good day.
Good day.
I would like to thank the Nicaraguan Solidarity Campaign for this opportunity to share some thoughts on the historical significance of the Sandinista Popular Revolution. I am sure that many of you know our history very well. Nevertheless, I would like to underline the fundamental contradiction between foreign intervention and the Nicaraguan popular movement in our history. Sandino's army embodies the popular movement against foreign intervention, who defeated US military forces in Nicaragua. But his vision went further, building a progressive agenda around cooperatives and the delivery of social service to the people. Sandino also had a clear anti-imperialistic thinking, calling for the unity of the people and nations of the region against US imperialism. Carlos Fonseca Amador incorporated Sandino's nationalistic, anti-imperialistic, progressive thinking into the FSLN historical program, which became our fundamental guide for action. As we remember, in the 80s and 90s, military power, the mightiest power of the earth, set out to overthrow the progressive revolutionary movement in Nicaragua for the simple reason of leading a victorious popular revolution and becoming an example for the struggle of the people of the world. Our example continues to be the reason for the constant intervention and meddling in our affairs. After defeating the deadly foreign intervention in the 80s, the Nicaraguan popular movement would have to face the Neoliberal Counter-Revolution during the 1990s and the 2000s. In this period, the FSLN would undergo a crucial period when a faction that had once adopted progressive position, who even took up arms against the Somoza dictatorship, realigned with the traditional oligarchy, helping to dismantle many important achievements of the revolution and try to denaturalize the popular essence of the FSLN before it ended up breaking away. With the principles of Sandino and Carlos Fonseca, under the leadership of Comandante Daniel Ortega, the FSLN defended the revolutionary positions in the face of a deadly neoliberal agenda, creating the conditions to retake the government in 2006 elections. With the electoral victory of 2006, the government continued to be guided by the FSLN historical program, identifying reconciliation and national unity to lead the country on the path of peace, development, and well-being, inaugurating the longest period of peaceful, sustained economic growth and social inclusion this country has known in its history. The National Human Development Plan, launched in 2007, promoted stability, job creation, and reduction of poverty and inequality, It will bring together all the productive force of the nation to ensure development and social justice, instilling hope in the Nicaraguan people's potential and capacities. In 2018, Nicaragua had experienced the fastest sustained economic growth, averaging 5% yearly, which is a result of more than 40 emblematic social programs implemented to combat poverty with direct result in the well-being of the Nicaraguan people. In 2007, the government reinstated universal and free access to health and education. The family and community health model is based on the gratuity of a medical service, a strategy for primary care, increased healthcare infrastructure, and training for healthcare workers. This strengthened healthcare system, along with communal organization, are among the reasons for Nicaragua's internationally recognized improved health indicators. This period had also witnessed the fastest and most extensive growth in infrastructure development, from roads, electricity, and communication to housing, drinking water, sanitation, and schools. The revolutionary government continued to steadily restitute the rights of the Nicaraguan people to quality infrastructure. Nicaragua is the safest country in Central America and the third least violent in Latin America and the Caribbean. Although these are important achievements, it is in the area of social inclusion and recognition of historical rights that the Sandinista revolution had made significant advances. A systematic policy towards gender parity has allowed us to be ranked among the 5 countries with greatest gender parity in the world. Women represent over 50% of the judiciary, the executive, the National Assembly, mayors, and municipal and regional councilmen. Women head the most important public offices, including the Vice Presidency of the Republic, the Presidency of the Supreme Court of Justice, the Vice Presidency of the National Assembly, the General Prosecutor Office, the Attorney General Office, and the Mayor of the capital city of Managua. The implementation of the regional autonomous law for the people of the Caribbean coast of Nicaragua has allowed for the inclusion of indigenous and Afro-descendant people in national leadership positions and to recognize the ancestral land rights, having titled over 37,000 square kilometers, 31% of national territory in favor of these communities. It is important to mention 2 challenges: the hurricane and the COVID, 2 challenges that the people of Nicaragua currently are facing. In both cases, the responsible response of the government was key for the reduced loss of life. Nicaragua's approach to COVID required a careful and balance between economy and healthcare. In a country where 70% of the economy relies on small and medium urban and rural agricultural producers, we could not paralyze the economy and stop producing food. Early detection and prevention, community organization, along with the improved health infrastructure, were key to keeping infection, hospitalization, and death at a low level. Hurricane Eta arrived to the northern Caribbean coast as a Category 4 storm. Amid the destruction, the wind, and the flood caused, we can report no loss of life as a direct consequence. Destruction of infrastructure and production is calculated around $180 million US. Relief and swift reconstruction efforts are currently underway for thousands of families. These achievements demonstrate the effectiveness of the Sandinista government, proving that the progressive forces can govern effectively, which increasingly becomes a good example for the world. The failed coup of 2018 represented the desperate intention for the local elite and the United States government to overthrow the effective Sandinista government, destroy its good example, and eliminate the FSLN as a political force. Millions of US and European dollars were provided through so-called democracy program to recruit, train, and organize urban and rural youth, along with other sectors to confront the government of Nicaragua through instability and terror. The anti-Sandinista agenda forwarded by the Nicaraguan right wing politicized NGOs and social media channels revived the polarization and confrontation between the Nicaraguan people. The Nicaraguan people was able to defeat these actions, continuing the path of democratic building, peaceful coexistence, and economic growth, which represent a strategic defeat of the continued attempt to destroy the Sandinista revolution. The efforts towards reconciliation, peace, and development are still under attack through illegal and unilateral aggressions by the United States and European government, the so-called sanctions. These criminal actions are designed to target Nicaragua's economy, particularly its capacity to deploy the fundamental social and economic programs that have been successful. They constitute a violation of human rights and international law. Have no doubt about it. Shan killed. After 41 years, the Sandinista Popular Revolution is prepared to continue the struggle for independence and self-determination. We have defeated foreign intervention in the past, and we are prepared to defeat it yet again. The Nicaraguan people proudly walk in the example of our heroes, men and women, who gave their life for a free Nicaragua. Their memory alone is inspiration for us to continue the path of the revolution. Thank you very much, and have a good day.
Thank you, Comandante. That was brilliant. A really good overview and explanation of the situation. That was really good and bang on time as well. The next speaker is Deborah Granderson Samuel. Deborah is a legal advisor at the Nicaraguan Ministry of Foreign Affairs and was the FSLN Women's Secretary in 1990. She's also been Special Attorney for Women and for Indigenous People. So Deborah, you're very welcome to address the webinar. Thank you.
Okay. Good morning, good afternoon. Warm greetings to all on behalf of the President, Daniel Ortega, and Rosario Murillo, Vice President of Nicaragua. Resisting the government from below. Through the entire history of Nicaragua, the government led by Sandinistas front during the time of government was being the only government that has prioritized the interests of the great majority of Nicaraguans, the poor class of the community. The strength that Sandinista front had is the model and is the confidence that the people that had given to Comandante Daniel Ortega to defend and promote the interests of the poor, even in difficult circumstances, and a confidence that have historical roots from the struggle against the Somoza regime. During the first moment of the revolution, government made huge economic and social transformation never seen before in the country, and so guaranteed the right to have shelter over their head in order to consolidate the rights urban lots were given to poor people. The right to free education and health for the poor people were among all these benefits. The Sandinista revolution did not only strengthen the democracy, is also bordered on a representative democracy in Nicaragua, but also set up representative democracy. After 1990, when the Sandinista front became the opposition in the country, we established goals to defend all the achievements such as health, education, the 6% for the universities, agrarian farm for the peasant, the participation of workers in the state-owned enterprise, the claim for equality and autonomy. Women's rights also exercise their political participation. Result that we have now in the actually the recognition that we get at Nicaragua for the different participation of women in different levels. The reivindication of the different sectors of the population facing the subordination of the political and economic project implemented and defense of the autonomy process in the Caribbean coast of Nicaragua as the greatest historical reivindication given by the revolution, recognizing the Constitution and ancestors' rights of the indigenous and Afro-descendant people. We also faced a struggle in the 1980s against the Contra-revolutionaries, group supported by the CIA and two United States administration. Losing the election in 1990, the Nicaraguan people were the biggest loser because revolutionary government could not longer continue to develop nor construct all the revolutionary change beginning in 1990. The government conducted by Violeta Barrio Chamorro was only representing the most conservative sectors of the country. During 16 years in which the revolutionary government has out of power, the country suffered a great social, political, and economical recession. Losing all these benefits, it became a political trump for the contra-revolutionary and neoliberal in Nicaragua, conducted by government of the United States. There were three neoliberal, liberal conservative governments during the 16 years: Violeta Barrio de Chamorro, Armando Alemán, Enrique Bolaños also. These three governments were the direct responsible for stealing away the rights of the people. In this period, Nicaragua suffered drastic changes. These changes were characterized by applying social, political, and economic policies which had a huge impact on the poor, especially women, children, and older people. Regarding social inequality, violation of rights, social rights were violated, excluding treatment and poverty sickness. These policies limited roles of different phases or area of development, closing of space of participation, or the danger of women being important part of the collective development and progress in the nation. During this period, in 1990 to 2007, the Sandinista Front conducted the opposition with adherence to the Constitution, despite the crisis of lack of governability due to engineer or weakness of the government in power. The government, presided by Violeta, welcomed the government to the neoliberalism trend with the main objective to dismantle all changes that were achieved during the 11 years in benefit of the poor sectors of the country. In the midst of very complicated climate, the government conducted by Violeta put into practice his so-called structural adjustment program, which was developed against the inflation, consisted in applying economic measures supportly to eliminate the inflation and correct the over-evaluation of the currency exchange. This first attempt to stabilize the Nicaragua economy came along with a commitment with international agencies to apply structural adjustment measures that affected the great majority of the population, the poor people, and increased the rich people's incomes. Governed by from below to face the policies of the neoliberal government, by this means, we will defend all the achievement of the revolution, the right of all people of Nicaragua, and all the social sectors. Daniel Ortega, our maximum leader, was an unconditional and always showing his face defending the interests of the different sectors, trade unions, such as different syndical, they have the Sandinista Workers Union, the National Workers Front, National Association Nicaragua for Education, the National University Council, National Union of Nicaragua Students, the Secondary and Student Association, Teachers National Association, and Federation of University Teachers, also workers from university, including the Collective of Transport Corporation. The neoliberal government did not only affect from a human standpoint, but they hindered the whole development of the country and the people. Almost everything became private, all governmental enterprise were privatized. The Commandante also mentioned the electricity, the telecommunication. Thousands of state workers also were left without a job. Education and health became private, as the Commandante mentioned already. The lack of production of this domestic market, this obligates thousands of Nicaraguans to migrate to the cities and rural areas because of the terrible policies, all the great things that the revolution government did in support, the culture went down the drain. On national level, in case of education, they decreed also autonomy, taking away the responsibility of the state and passing it to the directors, and that brought the directors requested volunteer fees from poor parents They also took away the glass of milk from the school and the daycare centers that we had in Nicaragua. In regards to health, that wasn't only privatizing the health, that was the hospital without any medication. Many of people requesting the private attention, and that was affecting a lot of family, including the cause of deaths. We have a lot of people, lack of attention, lose their life. The Sandinista National Liberation Front, from in the opposition, carried out great battles in different scenarios, from the National Assembly with the Sandinista members of Parliament, in the Regional Council from the south and north of the Caribbean coast of Nicaragua, imposing different laws. After this first program in 1994, they put into practice the Structural Adjustment and Stabilization Program. Both programs brought about serious protests led by workers linked to the Revolutionary Party. Therefore, they began a transition characterized by time of uncertainty, lack of safety, and great opposition from counter-revolutionary groups that demand a disarm and reduction of the Sandinista armed force, returning properties that were confiscated and privatized all state-owned enterprise. This brought out negotiation between both governments. These conversations were finalized on the 27th of March of 1990 with the signing of a protocol of transition. The popular sector took the street to protest against the revolution, the violation of their rights they were given to them during the 80s. The Sandinista Front represent the popular sector of the country during the negotiation that were carried out because of the pressure of the people that protested on the street for their rights. These sectors that were respectful of the new political culture, they wanted to build support, and the support violated various tomorrow. Again, the Sandinistas negotiate with the government, defending belief, ideas, values, principles, collective representation, structure, and relation that establish the conduct of the behavior of the society, all in which were implemented since 1979. The Sandinista Front supported the sector that were remain, but did not support the rearm way out of this situation. During critical moments, Violeta expressed her intention to resign and passing over the power to the Sandinista, but Comandante Daniel Ortega said that government elected by popular vote in 1990 should continue until time mandate was over. In the following general election, Arnoldo won the election, and the Sandinista accepted the defeat, but also presented evidence of an election with fraud to Supreme Electoral Council, presided by Rosa Marina Zelaya, political associate with Arnoldo Animal. The new government continued to dismantle, pull apart all the achievement gained by the people, but due to the pressure protest on the street, they were faced to negotiate with the Sandinista Front in representation of the people to defend their rights based upon amendment of the Constitution during the revolution benefits that were attended by rights. In 1980, a long dream came to be reality, that when the agrarian reform that was brought to the landers system, millions of acres of land were concentrated in the hand of few. Land to plant were given to peasants all over the country because they are the ones who really do all the planting in the ground. They were given title of their land through the agrarian reform. With the neoliberal government, they carried out a counter reform against the laws Sandinismo made in that moment. And in that way, the banks and the rich people stole the peasant, the urban people land, and were given to them by what was given to them by justice from the revolution. As a result of many discussions, a tense and polemic environment of atmosphere arose between liberal and political technicians. Aleman decided to compact the National Development Bank, justifying that the country would save $50 million a year. 48 branches were sold to private banks, leaving only 15 in rural area and laying off over 1,000 workers. The National Development Bank would only offer loans to the small and middle-sized agricultural farmers. That means that the people must be benefited by the agrarian law. They won't have any access to loan. The radical technicism approach did not prevail in the government represented by Enrique Bolaño, who wanted to eliminate the banks totally. Aleman took a moderate position regarding closing down totally the state bank. He felt by the closing down of those bank, his party will lose followers. Being he had a potential in the rural area, he didn't close all the bank then. The government of Alonso Aleman also made commitment because he demand of the people and banked up by the Sandinista front that he will create an institute to promote subsidy for small and poor farmers. The creation of the institute to help the small farmers faced with competition such as non-governmental agency giving credit to farmers, and these agencies had the approval of the International Money Fund. The responsibility of the government in that moment, Alonso Aleman passed it on to the ONGs. During all the negotiation, there were two outstanding positions, well-defined. To dismantle, to do away with all the great things that the revolution did for the people in Nicaragua, and the other position from the Sandinista is that to fight and maintain all the achievement that, and this means going to the street, avoid going to the street and protesting to defend all the right those achieved. The policy of governing from below had to do with defending the interests of the poor people during the 16 years of neoliberal government. Up to this day, the government promotes leadership and of the people. The government has facilitated and achieved outstanding advance for the poor people, indigenous, Afro-descendant, likely to say, a confidence constructed on historical practice. Another strength.
Deborah, we're running over time a little bit now.
Okay.
Is it possible to begin to wind up?
Okay, sure.
Because we have other speakers, if you can.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
After harsh struggle, the university student got it in some of the achievement while we were in the opposition. Struggle of a university student got the approval of the 6% from the country national budget. This was distributed among the public universities, and of course the two universities of the Atlantic coast was being included. Once getting that give possibility for course students access to university and of course able to get a degree. They also, during the time the Sandinista front continued the struggle, it member failing the commitment with women, young people, and approving law of autonomy, approving the law for equal opportunity for women, and the National Commission guarantee in the structure of the party the participation of women in all levels in the Assembly, Sandinista, and the Council, and also in the different institutions. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Deborah. Thank you very much, Deborah, and apologies for having to interrupt, but we have more speakers and very much appreciate the comments that you've made. That was an excellent contribution. Now we move on to a double act. We have Nan McCurdy and John Perry are going to do a presentation between them of 10 minutes each, kicking off with Nan, who, as you know, is the editor of the weekly news magazine on Nicaragua, Nica Notes, and editor of The Revolution Won't Be Stopped, a book published by the Alliance for Global Justice in July this year. She's been a resident in Nicaragua for most of the last 36 years. And to introduce John as well, he first visited Nicaragua in 1984 and has lived in Masaya since 2003. Now, John writes about Nicaragua and Central America for the London Review of Books, a blog site, and other online periodicals, and also acts as the local representative of the Leicester Masaya Link Group, which he helped to set up. So we're going to get 10 minutes from Nan and 10 minutes from John. And I understand we've got a presentation now coming up on screen. So Nan, can I invite you to commence the presentation? Okay.
Yes. Can you hear me and see my screen?
I can. Yes,
okay.
Definitely.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here with everyone today, this evening. And I'm excited because I get to present details about the advances of the revolution, of the second phase of the revolution, the last 14 years. It's not the first time I've done it, and I love doing it because it's not information you're going to see in the media in the United Kingdom, nor in the media in the United States. The size of the economy in 2006 was 6.7 billion. Today, it has nearly doubled, 12.5 billion. Since 2006, extreme poverty has been reduced by more than half. Here are a few more comparisons. Poverty has also been cut in half since 2006, from 48% to 24.6%. Electricity has gone up from 54% to nearly 100%. 98.5% of people have electricity in their homes. Potable water has increased from 70% to 93%. connection to sewage from 35% to 55%. Infant mortality has gone down by way more than half, from 29 to 11 per 100,000. Maternal mortality has also gone way, way down, from 93 per 100,000 to 30 per 100,000. There were 50 maternal wait homes where women in rural areas go to wait to have their babies so that they can be attended at a hospital or a health center. There were 50, now there are 178. Chronic malnutrition has also gone down by about half. And chronic malnutrition in older children, 6 to 14, has gone down from 27 to 9. And that probably has a lot to do with the school lunch program. Electricity from renewable energy was only 20% in 2006. And today it ranges from about 65 to about 80%, depending on the amount of sun, the amount of wind, and that sort of thing. Let's look at food sovereignty and nutrition. There is about 90% food sovereignty today in Nicaragua. During the 2018 coup, with more than 1,000 roadblocks, people didn't go hungry because of the small producers. The World Food Program says Nicaragua prioritizes guaranteeing food security and praises the school meal program that reaches at least 1.2 million children from preschool on. A September World Bank report says that a child in Nicaragua has a 98% chance of living to age 5, one of the highest in Latin America. In August, the IMF praised Nicaragua's programs that strengthen the social safety net with food packages for vulnerable families. Production bonds have gone to 213,796 families through Zero Hunger since 2007. This stimulates the popular economy and helps small farmers produce more. Advances for women, of which Deborah spoke about many. Nicaragua is 5th in the world in gender equity behind Sweden. It has the highest level of gender parity in ministerial positions in Latin America, 55.6%, according to an August International Development Bank report. There are 34 women's police stations with highly trained staff. There are 12 more under construction. Nicaragua has the lowest rate of femicides in Central America. It also has the lowest homicide rate in Latin America and the lowest in Central America, one of the lowest in Latin America and the lowest in Central America. And both of those things really help women have more of a sense of security. The government has given low-interest loans to more than 812,654 women for small businesses in the last 14 years. Investment in social infrastructure. Nicaragua ranks 2nd in Latin America in social infrastructure. It ranks 3rd in all of Latin America in drinking water quality, energy, and transportation, with a huge investment in roads, electricity, and water, said the International Development Bank in August. It has the best access to potable water in the region. It ranks 1st in Central America in best roads. It subsidizes basic grains, transportation, electricity, and water for the more vulnerable population. 58% of the 2021 budget will go for social spending. Now in the areas of transparency and debt, exports, and disaster preparedness. It has very high transparency in public debt with full data on each institution's websites about execution of loans. Nicaragua is praised by banks for its excellent project execution. On October 7th, Dante Mossi, president of the Central America Bank for Economic Integration, said, "The quality, planning, dynamism, and effectiveness of Nicaragua's project management is excellent, and the finance ministry is extremely organized and transparent, allowing CABE to plan projects in an easy manner and without concerns." In 2020, Nicaragua has the lowest debt per capita in Central America, and this is because all of the other countries took out huge loans to deal with COVID, and Nicaragua did not. And we also did not close down the country. Exports as of October 31st again broke records, reaching more than US 2.5 billion, a 19.4% increase over the same period last year, according to Cetrix and the Economic Commission for Latin America. The World Bank readjusted their economic growth projections for Latin America, highlighting that Nicaragua has been the only country to increase its exports and not paralyze its economy. Thus, Nicaragua's export data confirms their good decision not to close down during the pandemic. Nicaragua is among the first countries in Latin America in disaster risk management, which we have seen with Hurricane Eta. Let's look at free universal health care, and those are some pictures of existing and future hospitals. Health spending increased by 318% from 2006 to 2020. Nicaragua ranks fourth in all of Latin America in health investment. 40 cents of every dollar is spent on health and education. We have 18 state-of-the-art hospitals that have been built since 2007, and 7 more hospitals are under construction. Health personnel, doctors, nurses, technicians, increased from 22,000 to almost 37,000. There are now 143 major health clinics, 1,333 health posts, and 80 mobile clinics. There is a new molecular biology lab and an influenza vaccine plant. A new health program is taking specialists and special tests like ultrasounds directly to all the neighborhoods. There are 70 natural medicine clinics for pain management. Cancer radiation centers now have linear accelerators. Nicaragua does kidney transplants and provides dialysis, and all of this for free. Let's look now at COVID preparedness, and Nicaragua continues to disinfect public spaces like markets and buses. Nicaragua was one of the first countries in the world to create a comprehensive plan for dealing with COVID prevention, containment, and treatment. Nicaragua prepared 19 hospitals for treating COVID and prepared 37,000 medical staff and more than 150,000 volunteer health workers. Nicaragua has a stringent screening at all of the entrances to the country and does careful follow-up to make sure people are doing their quarantine. The IMF said COVID-19 cases were treated in accordance with international protocols. Nicaragua implemented a national alert, a 24/7 hotline, epidemiological surveillance protocols, control measures at all entry points. Health personnel were trained and have exchanged experiences with international experts. From March to May, medical personnel and volunteers made more than 5 million home visits for education, prevention, and detection. And let's look at free universal education. Kids with their masks, washing hands. There is a 94% approval rating from 1.7 million students and parents of the education system. More than 7,700 schools were built or rebuilt and equipped since 2007. School meals are provided for 1.2 million students. There are now 500 rural secondary schools, so village kids can study high school. The government provides free books, backpacks, and materials to over 1 million children. A monetary bonus is given to high school graduates. There is constant teacher training. English language teaching is from first grade on. More than 500 schools have internet access, and there is free Wi-Fi in most parks throughout the nation. And there are 200 mobile classrooms, which I'm sure are going to be used on the Atlantic coast for a while after Hurricane Eta. Finally, I haven't seen an honest article about Nicaragua in the US press in many years or in the major media of the United Kingdom. So it's important to find alternative sources like Nika Notes and like the 2 books a group of us have published available for free on allianceforglobaljustice.org, afgj.org. Nicaragua Live, Uprising or Coup, and our most recent book, The Revolution Won't Be Stopped. Nicaragua Advances Despite US Conventional Warfare. And this is just a picture of the book. They're available in English and Spanish. Many of you went to Nicaragua in the 80s or 90s. I urge you to return and see for yourself. Take your family on a vacation, or I can provide you with a list of groups that provide very good experiences. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nan. And the comment you made at the end there about visiting Nicaragua is something that certainly in the trade unions we were looking at doing something like this, but of course the pandemic has made that impossible. But all being well, the other side of the pandemic, we'll come over and see you.
Great.
Now, our next speaker is John Perry, and just to introduce John again, just very briefly, he writes for Nicaragua Central America for the London Review of Books and other online periodicals, and acts as a coordinator for the Leicester Messiah Link Group. John, you're very, very welcome, and we look forward to hearing what you've got to say.
Thank you, Tony. I hope I can now share my screen. Does that work for everybody? I'm going to talk about the role of US intervention in Nicaragua, and I'm going to start by looking at a bit of history. It's interesting to compare the recent presidency with the presidency of William Taft in the US in 1909, because it turns out that both presidents said very similar things about Nicaragua, and there's a list of some examples. In each case, the first one is a comment by President Taft or his administration, and in the second, President Trump or his administration. As you can say, they've been saying very similar things about the country and its government over the last 100 years or so. So, unfortunately, US intervention and interference in Nicaragua is not new. If we go back to 100 years ago, that's when Taft and his cronies succeeded in overthrowing the then reformist President Zelaya in Nicaragua. The US then occupied the country until 1933, and the occupation was ended by Augusto Cesar Sandino, as we've already heard. Sandino was assassinated, And we then had the Somoza dictatorship supported by the United States right up to the time of the revolution. And since the revolution and since the period of neoliberal government after 1990, the US has continued to interfere in Nicaragua's affairs, as we'll hear. So I'm going to look at what's been going on in Nicaragua really since 2010 or thereabouts. But I thought I'd try and put a comparison together of the different ways in which the US government is interfering now compared with the 1980s. And so there it is. The US government no longer makes direct military attacks as it did in the 1980s, nor do we have a proxy war. Instead, it provokes internal violence. It still uses economic sanctions. It uses economic sanctions against individuals, manipulates international bodies. And I think one of the most interesting things is the way that, compared with the 1980s, the US and the media and the opposition have succeeded in splitting the international left, so that the international left was solidly behind the Sandinista revolution in the 1980s. It's now sadly split, and I think that's an unfortunate success of US intervention and the intervention of, or the methods used by the opposition groups. One of the methods being used now is the US sanctions, which in international law are held to be illegal. One of these is the so-called NICA Act that is used to block aid and loans via international institutions to Nicaragua. This has only been partially successful, but it's also having a psychological effect. It's affecting trade, it's affecting ordinary bank loans for business purposes. And as it goes on, will have more effect as time passes. There are also now multiple sanctions against individuals associated with the Nicaraguan government. I've given two examples there. Sonia Castro, who was the former health minister who helped build those 18 hospitals that Nan was talking about just now, and General Ramon Avellan, who was head of the Masaya police and defended us in Masaya during the events of 2018. These individuals are picked out by the US government on completely spurious grounds for sanctions. And then, as you can see on the bottom right of the screen, the UK government, and indeed the European Union, simply repeats these sanctions against these individuals. So these two individuals are sanctioned by the UK government and by the European Union as they are by the US government. In recent years, what has become very important is the financing by US government-funded agencies of propaganda work and anti-Sandinista work by NGOs, by media, by so-called human rights bodies in Nicaragua. And here are some examples that were exposed by the website Behind Back Doors. You can go there to see the documents. And they showed that from 2010 onwards, the US government was spending at least 170 million through US aid and via its sponsored organizations, the National Endowment for Democracy, the National Democratic Institute, of course, the CIA itself, to undermine the Sandinista government that took power again in 2007. It was very strange because at the time of the events in 2018, this very open and honest article appeared in a website called Global Americans, which is paid for by the National Endowment for Democracy, by Ben Waddell. And it was entitled Laying the Groundwork for Insurrection, a closer look at the US role in Nicaragua's social unrest. And Waddell was quite open about the program being run by the National Endowment for Democracy to lay the groundwork for insurrection in Nicaragua. And as we know, they were very nearly successful. Recently, there've been plenty of leaks about new funding by USAID and other bodies. Recently, I think about £13 million has been identified as being spent in the current financial year to fund bodies in Nicaragua. And I wanted to give you some examples of that funding. where does this new money go? Well, almost $4 million is going to one family, the Chamorro family, one of the most powerful in Nicaragua. You can see at the bottom right of the screen, Jaime Chamorro, who is the owner of La Prensa, and La Prensa is getting part of this money. Then at the top of the screen is Carlos Fernando Chamorro, a right-wing, independent, supposedly, journalist who runs Confidencial, the right-wing website that is extremely critical of the Sandinista government. And in the middle is Juan Sebastián Chamorro, very likely to be a presidential candidate next year in the next elections. And his NGO FUNEDES received money from US aid, and they spread wildly exaggerated forecasts of the effects of COVID during the recent pandemic. And here's another place where the money is going. The Movimiento Campesino, the peasant movement, which was responsible for the roadblocks in the central and eastern parts of Nicaragua in April to July 2018, has now got almost $500,000 in subsidy. And it was responsible for some of the most horrendous attacks in 2018, particularly on police stations, of which the worst took place on July the 12th. The small police station in Morito was surrounded by 200 armed Campesino movement members. 4 policemen were killed, or police officers were killed, which included women, and 9 were kidnapped and beaten up before they were eventually rescued. And this is an example of a body that's now getting US funding. And another one is one of the so-called human rights organizations, Nicaraguan Association for Human Rights, headed by Alvaro Leiva. They're receiving $700,000, and they're culpable of complete kind of whitewashing of the violence of 2018. Here's some photographs showing Leiva and a priest from a local Catholic church covering up the murder and burning of the body of a poor police officer, Gabriel de Jesus Vado Ruiz, in July 2018. And this took place only a few kilometers from where I live. Where's the money going now? Well, we have a new program that started earlier this year called RAIN, Responsive Assistance in Nicaragua, which is intended to create the environment for Nicaragua's transition to democracy. However, if the election that comes next year gives the wrong result, the program is there to operate against the incoming government, regardless of whether it's fairly elected, as it says in the documents that were released. The total cost of RAIN is not known, but we do know that RAIN has got access to over $500,000 in grants to be spent with Nicaraguan NGOs, some of whom we've no doubt already mentioned. So all of this was behind the violence of 2018. I won't go into detail on some of that because you'll have heard some of these examples from previous seminars. But in the photographs on this slide, you can see in the top corner the burning of Granada Town Hall, and in the middle the burning of Sandinista Radio Ya. And both of these horrible events, which destroyed important buildings and thankfully didn't cost any lives, as it so happened, were in effect media manipulations by the media group 100% Noticias, 100% Noticias, which is led by Miguel Mora, and one of the prominent journalists is Lucia Pineda. Lucia Pineda was responsible for putting forward the propaganda that the Granada Town Hall was being burned by Sandinistas, when in fact it was being burned by the opposition. And Miguel Mora actually provoked the fire at the Radio Ya building by alleging that Sandinistas were attacking his radio station, and invited opposition supporters to go and burn down Radio Ya, which they then did, risking the lives of all the journalists inside. These two journalists were received, as you can see, by Mike Pence in the White House. And it's just another example of the way that the US administration is supporting violent people like these and pretending that they're not violent, pretending that they're peaceful protesters or peaceful representatives of Nicaraguan media organizations or human rights bodies. So, to learn the truth about this, do read those two books, and you can see where to download them there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. That was very, very interesting. I think while you were speaking and when Nan was speaking, there was a lot of chat on the chats, details of the book. So coming up to Christmas, anybody want some good reading for Christmas, then you know where to be able to purchase those books. I'm now going to move on to our good comrade, Her Excellency Giselle Morales Echeverri, the Nicaragua ambassador to the UK, the Republic of Ireland, and Iceland, which is a bit further that way for us. And I know Giselle is going to bring us solidarity greetings to this event. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Tony. And thank you to all the speakers for their comprehensive presentations and on the advancement of the revolution. But also, I want to say thank you to the Nicaragua Solidarity Campaign Action Group, to the team behind, to all the faithful Solidarity friends that have been with us since we started this, since the revolution won in the 1979, and even before, campaigning for us here in a very unimaginable ways, getting so thank you to all of them who went to Nicaragua in the difficult times, who have been with us in the difficult times, and are with us now. And I cannot thank you enough for that. This time we have heard also from Commandante Campbell, from Comrade Deborah, John, from Nan, the struggles, continuity, and advances of the revolution that is found since the foundation of the Sandinista Liberal National Front, Frente Sandinista de Liberación Nacional, with deep root links with organizations of worker, peasants, and the Nicaragua revolution is going forward under different conditions, has followed the political, social, and economic historical program of the FSLN. But I want to stress today, besides bringing you these solidarity greetings, to link this advancement the FSLN has, the Sandinista revolution and the Nicaraguan revolution has achieved, and through its history, that the link that connects Sandino and the Comandante Daniel Ortega, who the leader of the FSLN at the moment, and through the history of the revolution, is Carlos Fonseca. And I want to mention this because without his leadership, without his thinking and the founding of and being along with other comrades of the Sandinista, other comandantes, like Tomás Borges, and this made possible all this. So I am going to take a moment to share with you, a little bit about Comandante Carlos Fonseca, because just a few days ago we celebrate, and we say we celebrate, we commemorate, but we celebrate his anniversary to pass to immortality. 1 second, I'm going to share with you just my screen. Share a screen. Okay. Okay. So I hope you've seen it. Are you okay? So so I want to take this to dedicate this moment. Oh, no, not yet. So I just wanted to share with you this, and that he, as a founder, he rescued, as mentioned by Comandante Campbell, the legacy of Sandino. Carlos passed to immortality 44 years ago on 8th of November in the mountains of Sinica, fighting for the people of Nicaragua, a patriot, a man of the people. And as every year, all Nicaragua remembers him and say presente. His clarity of idea of the future of Nicaragua has inspired Sandinista militants, youth, Nicaragua youth, to pursue his dreams, to continue fighting, as he said, to put end to society divided into exploiter and exploited, to a society divided into oppressors and oppressed, to return to workers and peasants, to all workers, to the wealth taken from them. National independence, the defeat of imperialism, and are requirements for the construction of a new world, full of happiness, to achieve peace and social justice for the people. He also believed that solidarity and unity are fundamental elements in the confrontation to the common enemy. As President Ortega said on this past 8th of November, Carlos managed to gather the thought, the conscience, the ideals, the revolutionary practice of all the heroes that proudly represent the Nicaraguans. Therefore, of the entire pantheon of Sandinista heroes and martyrs, of the Sandinista saints that gave their life in the 80s for our liberty, he is the most beloved. Carlos is not only a beacon of light, an indefatigable guide in the construction of a new order to confront counter-revolutionary ideas and activities that imperialism fostered in different ways and tricks. It's not just a legend, it's a way forward. Carlos knew jail, torture, exile, great sacrifice, and died in combat, never to die, as has already been said by Comandante Borges. Carlos, with wisdom and dignity, recast with Tomás and Santos López and with Silvio Mayorga the ideas of Augusto Sandino. That is why his name is also a slogan, a flag, an imperishable torch that will continue to illuminate the path of freedom, national dignity, sovereignty, and happiness for our people. So, and today, Comandante Carlos, I am sure the brothers and sisters of the Solidarity join all Nicaraguans to say, Carlos Fonseca, presente, presente, presente.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. That was really, really good. Really interesting. And film.
Llegó un oficial de la Guardia Nacional lleno de alegría a decirnos que Carlos Fonseca había muerto. Nosotros le respondimos, Carlos Fonseca es de los muertos que nunca mueren. Por el dios de la jungla y el demonio de la ternura, salen de la cárcel mis palabras hacia la lluvia y sediento de luz te nombro hermano en mis horas de aislamiento. Vienes derribando los muros de la noche, nítido inmenso.
Okay.
Cuando apareciste,
Thank you.
llegaste
Thank
a
you very
nosotros con tus ojos míos.
Thank you for
Thank
that. I just wanted to bring this because he is the link to that continuity from the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and what we are doing today. So thank you very much for your solidarity then, your solidarity now.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. That was great. Comrades, we've got a number of questions that have come through, and rather than everybody answer them, if I just read them out, perhaps somebody can volunteer to do one of each, and it'll just take me a sec to get them up. Now, the first one is, can somebody explain how production bonds work for farmers? And Louise Richards has said she'd like to answer that one. The second one is in regard to maternal and infant mortality figures. It was interesting that maternal mortality seemed to be much greater than infant mortality, which is unusual. It's often the other way around, and that's from Gay Lee. And there is another one, which Jill Clark has written in. I can only just read it here. Thanks to all the speakers. Could somebody please clarify the difference between Campesino movement and the Rural Workers Association, ATC, and other peasants in Nicaragua? And finally, there is one here, and it's from my good friend Francisco, who says, in the light of the progressive victories for progressive forces in Argentina, Mexico, and now in Chile and Bolivia, does anybody see the resumption of regional integration in Latin America? And what would that mean for the region and for Nicaragua in particular? So if anybody wants to pick that one up or the other ones, that would be good. But I'll invite Louise, who's disappeared, to come in on that question on what the bonds were. Louise?
Tony, it's not for me. I think it must be for somebody else. So if one
You
of
said
the
Louise would like to answer it. Sorry, hang on.
you.
Louise Richards would like to answer this question live. Sorry, Louise. Can
Sorry,
anybody help us with that? Nan? You're muted.
Remind me, what was the question about the bond?
I shall go back. Hang on.
Okay, no, I've got it. So
explain how production bonds work for farmers.
Yes, the Sandinista government, when they came back in 2007, made a very creative way of trying to put more of the economy in the hands of poor people. And in the countryside, the big way was through production bonds, where impoverished farm families, I know there's some minimum amount of land they have to have, but they would receive a cow and a calf, a pig and piglets, chickens, and some other materials. And by now, I forget the amount I said, but it's more than 800,000 families have benefited from this, I believe. And it's really, really helped these families develop their economy, because once they have certain animals, then they're able to develop more. And it's part of what we call the popular economy.
Okay, I'm going to come on to the next one. A good volunteer to answer this one. Could anybody confirm the maternal and infant mortality figures? And it was interesting to note, this is from Gay Lee, that the maternal mortality seems to be much greater than infant mortality, which is unusual. It's often the other way round. Can I have anybody want to take that one? Yeah, Nan?
Nan has the details there.
Yeah, that's the thing. It was part of my presentation.
That's right, yeah.
Maybe she didn't see it right, because basically in both, they were reduced by 2/3. So maternal mortality went from 92.8 to 29.9, and infant mortality from 29 to 11. I will say that maternal mortality is one of the areas that the Sandinista government really focused on. They wanted to bring those numbers down. And one way they did it was through increasing the number of maternal wait homes, so that it's more and more rare for a woman in the countryside to have their baby at home with a midwife. They almost always go and stay at a wait home so that they can be attended by a doctor at a well-equipped health center. The other thing they did, because I actually went to a week-long workshop about this, is they really focused on figuring out what was the most important thing to improve training and focus training with doctors on to reduce maternal mortality. And I know that had to do with hemorrhaging. So there's been a lot of education about how to prevent hemorrhaging.
Thank you very much, Nan. The next question, I'm going to ask John to answer this if he can. And it's, could you please clarify the difference between the Campesino movement and the Rural Workers Association and other peasants in Nicaragua, John? Can you help us on that?
Yeah, certainly, Tony. It's important to emphasize that I think it's 45% of Nicaraguan workers gain their living from working in the countryside, from farming. So there's an enormous number of different campesino and farming movements in Nicaragua, some closely allied with the government, some completely independent, some aligned with the opposition. The campesino movement and the anti-canal movement, you remember the issue about the possible canal being built across Nicaragua, which excited some opposition in some areas. They're linked together, and they're directed by two important characters in the opposition period in 2018, Medada Mairena and Francisca Ramirez. And their power base is particularly in Nueva Guinea, in the southeast corner of the country, and in the central part of the country. And they dominated the roadblocks in those areas during 2018 and have really been militantly anti-Sandinista for many years. They're nothing to do with the ATC, which is the Rural Workers Association that the NSC works with, which is pro-government and very open and very peaceful in its form of working. Regrettably, the Movimiento Campesino and the anti-canal movement have both been very violent. They led attacks on police stations and all sorts of places, and they were violent before 2018, not just since 2018. So I hope that clarifies that question.
Thanks very much, John. And finally, we've got one question here from Francisco, who I know we all know, who says, in the light of victory of the progressive forces in Argentina, Mexico, and in Chile and Bolivia, does anybody see the resumption of regional integration in Latin America? And what would that mean for the region and in Nicaragua? Does anybody want to volunteer to pick that one up? The ambassador's flagging up there.
No, Comandante Campbell.
Comandante, you were pointing.
Okay. I think that have been the reuniting of all these Latin American countries is the dream of Bolivar, the dream of Sandino. And we feel like CELAC is the route to go for the development of our countries. And we have seen what have happened in Argentina with the progressive forces again in government. We saw what happened in Bolivia when they made that coup against Evo Morales. He's back in power again. The progressive force is back in power again. in Mexico. And I think we are on the rise. Definitely the people of Latin America have a level of conscience that although the imperialists and these power try to keep us down, we feel like we're advancing in the right direction. And I feel that the answer to this is to get a strengthened CELAC, which we feel like is a very important instance for integration of our country and to bring about a better condition and living for our people.
Thank you very much, Comandante. Comrades, I understand John's got to leave now. So thanks for your contribution, John. That's very, very helpful. Somebody sent me another question. Give me a sec. Oh yeah, from Francisco. Comandante, what is CELAC? C-E-L-A-C. You're muted.
Turn on el micrófono, comandante.
CELAC.
Explicarle, pues, Michelle, ya que veo que estás ahí en pantalla. No, explicar lo que es el CELAC.
Una pregunta a usted. So, comandante, no vaya usted es el jefe aquí.
Dale.
Okay, CELAC is was created under the leadership of Comandante Chávez, Comandante Fidel, Raúl, Cuba, Nicaragua, and it was created during this period when the left, let's say it was a left governments with Brazil also there with so CELAC is the Latin American union that we at the moment is still the presidency is Mexico, and since Mexico with the change of government, since Mexico has been there, has the presidency, it has revived the CELAC, this movement, this group of country, of Latin American countries, and also has developed a range of programs and meetings all this year that has improved the integration, and the integration with the participation of the countries that has progressive governments can only lead to the changes and the unity that we need in Latin America, the changes for the better life for our people.
Thank you, Ambassador. And finally,
Could I add something? Okay. Yeah, this also involves all the countries, because this is the Simón Bolívar dream. Our Latin American country, we have common interests, and just united as Latin American countries, we can advance. So this is the dream of Bolívar, Sandino, and which was bring about with
Latin American Caribbeans without United States. So we are talking among us as Latin American and Caribbean, and without interference of the United States, which is the problem in us.
Exactly. That's it, Richard. That's it.
Absolutely spot on. And the final question leads this very nicely in, Ambassador, because you're the diplomat here. The question from David Raby is: do you say any possibility of an improved relationship with the Joe Biden election in the USA? I'm sure that everybody would have a say on this, but I think because the CIA are probably listening into this Zoom conference, I'll leave it to the diplomat maybe to help answer.
Thank you, Tony. What I would say is Nicaragua has always, we did it with every president under the presidency of Comandante Daniel, the FSLN government has always give a hand to the president that has been elected by the United States people. So we respect that, and we are ready to work with them, to work with the government. We have never said we are not going to work with you. We never attack. We are the victims, the ones who are attacked, the ones who are imposed illegitimate and anti measures, international measures against us, aggressions, international aggressions against, measures against us. So we will work with President of the United States, whoever it is. We are ready for, because we are a country of peace. We are a country that looks for the advancement of our people. And the most important thing for us is peace. And the development is based on peace. So President Ortega sent his congratulations, a President-elect Biden. So I think from our parties, just about to go ahead and build a good relation from our party. We are waiting to see what he will have to say when he becomes a president.
Thank you very much, and I think that's very wise. I think everybody will have a point of view on this, but I think it's wise. I think we have to wait and see what he does, and I think that's going to be very, very important. Now, comrades, we're coming up to 20 to 8. And we've had a number of good questions, and we've had some absolutely excellent presentations tonight. So I'd like to thank Comandante, from Nan, from John, from the ambassador, and from Deborah, and to Brittany, and to Louise, who've been working the controls in the background to make this a success. I'm sure that we've had a very, very interesting debate for people who've been tuned into this, and I think we all will be waiting to see what happens in the USA over the coming weeks. Now, I have to give you some advertising, if you like, particularly for those comrades who are in the UK and are members of trade unions. And what we want to ask is, if you are a trade union member, ask your trade union, your region or your branch. If you're not affiliated to Nicaragua Solidarity Action Group, then please do so. The ambassador knows, and I know Louise knows, in Unite we're doing just this, trying to get our regions to support the campaign. And of course, once we get an opportunity to do more face-to-face meetings, then we can get out a lot more and get more affiliations. So you can get details on the website, which is www.nscag.org. So, comrades, if you are in a trade union, please make sure that you are look to get them to affiliate to the campaign. And I keep getting messages up here, loads of them coming up. And just to say thank you to all the attendees for attending the meeting, and also to all of our speakers. It's been a really successful meeting, and I hope that we can do this again soon. Thank you very much, and good evening.